Hello and welcome back to the Talking Wolves podcast, another podcast reacting to yet again another defeat for Wolverhampton Wanderers. But we'll be talking about the Chelsea game. We'll be looking ahead to a busy week for Wolves with Nottingham Forest and Grimsby, both games on the road in the Premier League and FA Cup this week for Wolves. And delighted to be alongside Jord Russell again. Jord, how are you keeping? How was your trip to America, mate?
Yeah, all good, thank you, all good. Yeah, I'm still sort of a little bit jet lagged still, to be honest with you, which is not ideal, sort of waking up in the middle of the night and still on a bit of a US time zone. But no, I had a really good time. Went to Orlando, went around the parks. And yeah, it was good. It was good fun. First time I've ever been there or done anything like that over there. So yeah, it was a load of fun. Went on loads of rides. And then, yeah, sort of avoided Wolves as much as I possibly could until I've come back and it's the same old misery, unfortunately.
Yeah, we're on a nice bit of run, and then you went, and then our form has sort of fallen off a cliff. So hopefully now you're back, we start to see a few. I
would solely blame the form, downturn in form, on the fact that I went to America.
Yeah. You do any watch any sports whilst you're out there, or?
Yeah. So we went to the NBA. So I went to watch the Orlando Magic play. That was really good, and then actually we got the brunt of like the bad weather in going across the US. So it was the coldest day in Orlando since 1988. We had 48 hours of, it was 30 degrees the weekend before, and then the following weekend it got down to -4 with wind chill of -15. So it was good for us in a way of, and people have been to like Universal, a lot of the rides are indoors, right? So it put a lot of people off, but we were just like, you know what? We go in, there'll be no queues, everything's indoor, like, let's go it. So from a ride standpoint, it was good. But then, we sort of were at a miss on the Sunday because it was freezing in the day, and we ended up going to watch the ice hockey, which
cool.
wasn't planning on doing that before we went out. And they share the Kia Centre with the Orlando Magic, and they're effectively in the championship. So they've got it's the Orlando Solar Bears, and I think they feed into the Tampa Bay Lightning, which again, if people follow hockey would know that. I didn't really know before I went, and yeah, I want to watch more ice hockey now. Like it was great. They were fighting, they were scrapping.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. It's quite a quick game. And again, obviously, my only real hockey knowledge was watching the Mighty Ducks as a kid, and I used to love those films. But actually going to watch it live, it was really cool. So yeah, got some sport in, got some rides in, and even managed to watch the Wolves as well one of the days in a sports bar. It was the Bournemouth game, I think. So yeah, I think we watched till about went to 2-0. I said to him, right, I've had enough. Let's go and ride some rides again, because the writing was on the wall at that point.
Yeah, I used to love the NHL games back in the day. I don't know if I'd assume they still make them, but I
think 2K make like the basketball, yeah.
Yeah, but you could always start scraps on there. That's the only reason I played it, really. Just get into a 50-50 with someone and start, because it was a 15. It was quite weird for a sports game to be a 15. Yeah. And it was because they had the fighting in there as well. But no, I've never really got into it. I went to watch the basketball when I went to New York a few years ago at Madison Square Garden, which is it's a cool experience, to be fair. So.
It's cool MSG.
Yeah. Completely different to what we see. I mean, we sometimes moan about ticket prices and stuff, and I know a lot of the American listeners and on social media saying like that's pretty well priced, to be fair, because I don't know how much you pay. I'm sure I paid about $90, $95 for a basketball ticket.
So when I went to MSG, we paid about $80, $90, but to be fair, at Orlando, we paid $45 each for a ticket, and we were bang on the halfway line. And then for the ice hockey, was right by the glass, and again, it is sort of the championship and stuff, and they only sold like the bottom and the middle tier of the Kia Centre for it. They didn't have the top. We paid, it was meant to be like $60, but we went on SeatGeek out there because people said best thing to do is go on SeatGeek, and we kept refreshing, and managed to get like 3 rows from the front for like $27 each, but they're meant to be about $70. So it was good. Yeah, so it's more reasonable. I think it's just New York prices with the MSG stuff, but then Super Bowl was last night as well, and you look at some of the ticket prices we're paying there. I think the cheapest ticket was going for about $3,000, $4,000 yesterday, up to like 12. So yeah, Americans is used to getting
ripped off
when it comes to sport, really. So yeah, it is what it is.
Your team. I mean, I don't even. Oh, sorry, I don't even know who won the Super Bowl, but your team weren't in it, were they? Or
I didn't even make the playoffs. No, Minnesota didn't make the playoffs. So no, I did watch it, yeah, because I'm still on that US time zone. So I actually had a bit of a power nap about 9:30. Started at 11:30, woke up about 10:30. So I managed to watch it. And again, I'm still feeling I'm feeling the effects of it this morning. But yeah, I watched the game. It wasn't like the best game for the neutral, but it was like a very defensive game. But yeah, no, Seattle beat New England Patriots. So one of my mates is a Seattle fan, so he was buzzing, to be fair.
I think Judah was there in person. Yeah, he's watching it. He's a fan of whoever won, I assume. So
yeah, he's a fan of Seattle, I think. Yeah, so yeah, he'll be happy. More money than sense, that guy, I think.
Anyway, let's jump unfortunately onto Wolves. It was another defeat at Molineux 3-1 against Chelsea, who, to be fair, have started quite well under Liam Rossigna. Jord, one of the major talking points from Saturday was a change in shape, change in formation, the two new signings coming in as well. Looked like quite on paper before the game, quite a positive lineup from Rob Edwards, or wanted to switch to something a bit more positive and attacking. But it's a huge risk when your team is against one of the better teams in the Premier League at the moment, and also a huge risk when you probably haven't really got the personnel to play the system that you want to play.
No, I think if he looks at it, and I think he'd be the first to admit he got it wrong in terms of the shape and the system on the weekend. I think it was one of those where he's got two new shiny toys in Angel Gomez and Adam Armstrong, and he's looking at the best ways to accommodate to get them in the team, whilst also keeping some of the players he trusts within the playing squad as well on the pitch. And it never looked right for me, really. In all fairness, though, like saying that, I thought the first sort of 15 minutes, we were the better team. I thought like we were quite positive. I thought we were taking the game to Chelsea. But it just didn't necessarily feel right at any point for me, really. I think he tried to accommodate, like I say, those two new signings in, and Chelsea were a little bit up and down, a bit Jekyll and Hyde. But you're looking at, they've got quality all over the place. Especially again, Cole Palmer's half fit still at the moment, but Enzo, Caicedo still in there. I feel like he felt like we could get at them at the back, especially with Reece James being out as well, but just didn't really work. And as soon as we went 1-0 down, it was game over, really. And, like typical Wolves of what's happened this year, we concede one, heads go down, and before the end of the half, you're out the game anyway. So, we completely capitulated. So it was a bit of madness, to be honest.
It's frustrating because I think, like you said, we actually started off quite brightly, but when you have two acts of pure stupidity that can completely unravel your game plan and what you want to achieve from the match, it's quite difficult. So a lot of fingers have been pointed at Rob Edwards for the team selection and for the system and shape that he tried to use. But ultimately, when you're pros, your experienced pros like Matt Doherty and then Mosquera later on in the first half, give away penalties as stupid as both of them were, is there much that Rob Edwards can do in regards to that? I know the rest of the game plan didn't really go well other than that, but I think he'll be frustrated that Wolves could have probably stayed in the game a lot longer than they did as well. But like you said, against City, we concede 7-8 minutes into the game. Against a top team like that, you give yourself a mountain to climb, and the exact same as well on Saturday.
Yeah, I think again, some of the criticism against Rob Edwards that I've seen online, I think it's fair in a way. I think he got it wrong. First of all, I do think he got it wrong. And again, in hindsight, I think he'd have gone about it a little bit differently. But when you concede two penalties like we did, you can't really legislate for that happening, right? In terms of a game plan, like you can have any game plan you want, but as soon as that sort of stuff happens, you can't legislate for moments of idiotic behaviour, in my opinion, from both Doherty and Mosquera. It's a problem. And then I think ultimately, I think the criticism against Rob Edwards is also a little bit labelled at the criticism of foes and sort of where we are as well. Because I think ultimately, like, fans understand now and realise the window's shut. Nothing can happen now between now and May in terms of bringing investment in or bringing players in. Whether it's right or wrong, for good, bad, and the ugly of it, Rob Edwards is going to get the slack and the brunt of, if we lose, it's going to be on Rob now. If we win, it'll be on Rob as well. yeah, like there's a massive problem with that. The one thing I don't kind of get is that when we lose a game, it's Rob Edwards' fault, but when we win a game, it's Rui Pedro Silva's doing that bit. For me, doesn't wash. And I think, there's going to be a lot of conversation about Rob Edwards and is he the right man for Wolves leading from now to the end of the season. I think that's probably going to be the narrative now until the end of the season. Whether he's basically auditioning for me to prove that he's the right man going into next season.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think there was a lot of stick for him on social media, on the comments of the videos that we put out over the weekend as well. There was a lot of stick saying that he got it wrong. I still feel that, he can't control the stupidity of both of those instances. And I think, second half we did look a little bit better, but it was brave. It was a bold choice. He did this, in terms of tactical mistakes, he did the same against Manchester United, not in regards to formation, but in regards to how high the line was against Manchester United at Molineux, and they put us to the sword. And I think Rob held his hands up when he made that mistake, and it will be very interesting to see how he reacts to that against Forest on Wednesday in regards to team lineup. I think with what you said, even with the new players, I think he could have introduced both of them in a similar way to how Wolves have set up. I think you could have played Adam Armstrong in the same role that Hwang's been playing. And you could have still had Mane in that sort of middle three with João Gomez and then Angel Gomez the other side of him. But, I mean, he persisted with Hwang, who was awful again on Saturday. Hugo Bueno really struggled to get forward. And I think there probably will be wholesale changes in terms of, I say wholesale changes. I think he will have to make some sort of changes on Wednesday on the trip to Forest. Let's talk about the penalties, though, Jord, because let's start with the first one. For me, Doc, a player of his experience, shouldn't be getting caught out as easily as that. And I've watched, for my sins, I watched the highlights back this morning, and you can see as soon as Chelsea get the ball in the box, João Gomez looks like the pace that he's running at somebody to try and tackle in your own area was dangerous to begin with. And I can remember it was right in front of me in the South Bank. And I thought, we've just been a little bit too aggressive here. And then Doc trying to, claim the ball from behind. There's only going to be one thing that's going to happen there. And these Chelsea players know what they're doing. They feel that contact in the box and go down. A few lads around me didn't think it was a penalty, but I thought it was a penalty all day long, Jord.
Yeah, it was, yeah. He kicked through him, and whether João Pedro has been cute with it or not, Doherty's gave him a reason and a chance to be cute with it, and made the most of it, maybe, yeah, but it's a stonewall penalty for me. You can't do that. It's kick through him to try and get to the ball. And I actually thought Doherty, and again, he has a lot of pelters. I've sort of never really been of that narrative. Like, I think he's been a great servant for the club, but I don't want to see him playing in a back four as right back moving forward. I think that's why he got called off at half time. It almost felt like it was just too big a game for him. Almost felt like it was too much. It just didn't look comfortable in that first 45 minutes. And yeah, for me, it was a penalty. No doubts about it. And, when Cole Palmer's going to put the ball on the spot, he doesn't miss, does he? Let's be honest with you, even if he's half fit. So, yeah, we sort of shot ourselves in the foot there, and then Mosquera has gone and done the same again, maybe albeit like 10 minutes later. Again, shocking defending for me. And it's the thing with Yerson Mosquera that really pisses me off, to be honest with you, because I think I look at him and I think the attributes he's got as a footballer, he's got all the attributes to be an elite defender, an elite centre-half, and go and play at a decent level in terms of, could even go and play for a top six side, I think, when he's on it. But he has so many brain farts. He has so many ricks with him. He wants to get involved in everything. The theatrics I'm not a big fan of. And, that penalty was is the reason why he's a club like us and where we are in the league, because he makes brain dead, stupid decisions. And it's not like it's a one-off. He has these moments virtually every game for me where he does something, you almost like wincing, thinking, oh, calm down. Again, João Pedro's going nowhere for that second penalty. Nowhere. It's going away from goal. And I think actually there's probably an argument to say, was it slightly outside the box? I thought it possibly was, right? But same time, I don't know why he's moaning. He's put two hands in his back, pushed him over. And again, Jared Gillett fucking hates Wolves at the best of times. So you've only got to give him half a chance to blow his whistle against us. He's going to do it. And look, like again, there's no real complaints to me that it was a foul and it was idiotic. But I think there is an element or an argument to say, was it definitively inside or outside the box? I thought it looked like it was just outside on the replay.
Yeah, I think you're right. In terms of Jared Gillett, he got a lot of stick for his performance as well. But I think the two easiest decisions of the day were those penalties. I do agree. I mean, at the time in the ground, I thought it was inside. Again, a couple of people around me said, "Are they not going to check if it was inside or out?" On the replay, it does look like the push is outside, and obviously because of how quick both of them are running, obviously he ends up halfway into the box by the time he's on the ground. So I'm surprised they didn't take a much longer look at that, because it seemed in the ground from when the referee blew the whistle until when the actual penalty was taken, it was quite a quick turnaround. But just pure stupidity. You're right. I think when I watched the highlights back this morning, it was the official Wolves commentary, and as soon as Mosquera puts his hands on Pedro, Andy Thompson's, what is he doing? So yeah, you just knew. I remember when I saw it, I was like, what the I just could not believe. And the fact that he's going to protest to Jared Gillett, I don't know if he's protesting that it was outside the box, I don't know, but just don't do it. Like you said, he was coming nowhere near the goal. He'd go nowhere, really. And it's just, I don't know. And this is the issue. This is why Wolves, we can blame Jeff Shee, you can blame Rob Edwards, whatever, but, stupid errors and mistakes like that ultimately are also a huge reason why Wolves are where we are in the Premier League today. And like you said, Cole Palmer is going to make no mistake. And the manner of the third goal, again, I didn't appreciate this until I watched it back. The defending is so poor for that one as well. The fact that they can get the ball, and Cole Palmer, who, like you said, half-fit Cole Palmer would walk into most Premier League teams anyway, but he's on 2 goals anyway. He ghosts into that area. When he puts the ball in the back of that, there's about 6 Wolves players behind him. It's not like we crowded out the box to try and defend. It was so frustrating, the lack of defending and the situation there. And like you said, Jord, I think you saw a different second half with that right-hand side, because Hwang, who I suppose we've mentioned him on this podcast before. I've not really given him much stick on my post-match reactions or anything, but I mentioned him on Saturday because that was just a really poor performance, and he went down with the knock. Was cheered when he came off, which again I mentioned before, I'm not normally a huge fan of that, to be honest. And then when Doc came off at halftime as well, that right back was completely different, and you could tell straight away it looked far better. Rodrigo Gomez coming in on the right. Mane was pushed forward to more of a right wing position, and we had a lot more bite straight away.
Yeah, I don't sort of subscribe to the ironic cheering of Hwang going off either. No matter what you think of him as a player or whatever like that, he's, I don't like it. I don't buy it, to be honest with you. I don't think it should be happening with players that are representing our football club. Ultimately, it looked like he popped his hamstring, so I don't think he's going to be able to play probably for the next sort of 4 to 6 weeks minimum. So it probably helps in a way that he's going to be out of the team, and it's probably going to take that heat off Rob Edwards that fans don't think he should be in the team. And you'll see the impact, or we'll see the impact of him being in or out of the team and what that looks like in the next 4 to 6 weeks. I thought, like, in terms of since Rob Edwards has come in and he's been playing up front with Tolu, I think he's been okay. I'd much prefer him up and around and making those sort of runs rather than, even on Saturday. Like, I don't think those, out on the wing, he's just wasted, because I don't technically he's a very good footballer. But again, we haven't got many options, to be fair, at the moment. Who else could play there? But yeah, look, we look more dangerous. And again, I think Rodrigo Gomez, for me, because he's infectious and he gets forward and up and down, I think he gets people off the seats, and it's sort of what we want to see from Wolves, right? Like a bit of fight, a bit of endeavour, and he has that in abundance. Whether, I think he'll, I don't necessarily think as a outblown sort of right back, I think he could get found out, because I think defensively he's not fantastic, but ultimately it's him or Jackson Stewart at the moment if you're going to carry on with the back 4. But I generally think we'll revert back to a back 5 in the week, and then we've got no problem then with Rodrigo playing as that right wing back, to be honest.
Yeah, I think be very interesting with Rodrigo. I think he has to come back in from the start on Wednesday. I know probably he's maybe easing him back in. He started against Bournemouth. I actually think he did okay against Bournemouth. You saw a lot more going forward straight away. We mentioned that on last week's podcast as well. But we started to knock on the door a little bit more. I think we actually restricted Chelsea, despite them scoring 3 goals, restricted them to very few clear-cut chances. Neto, who again another player, strangely, that was jeered quite a lot throughout the game on Saturday. He had a couple of half chances in the second half, but we looked at a bit better. And in the end, Tolu gets a goal. He had some chances last week, Jord, and he snapped at them a little bit. And cornering from Mane, flicked on by Adam Armstrong, who obviously will claim the assist on paper, and Tolu puts it in. Hopefully that can help him, give him a little bit of a boost, and hopefully we start to see some more goals from him as well. But in terms of the newbies and their performances, Armstrong for me, I think, was a little bit quiet, and I don't think that was necessarily on him. You could still see the work rate. You could still see him running and tracking back and trying to put the pressure on Chelsea. But I think he was a little bit isolated and lost on the left wing role throughout the majority of the game. Hopefully, if he does start again against Forest, it plays him a little bit closer to Tolu. I think, we're playing this sort of Route 1 football to hope Tolu nicks something on it and see where it bounces, but nobody's anywhere near Tolu. If Sarr's got the ball and wants to punt it forward, aim it at Tolu, but maybe Armstrong within 10 to 15 yards of him rather than 30 or 40 yards away. And then Angel Gomez, I think he came off with a small knock towards the end, so I'm hoping that's just precautionary and it's nothing too serious, but certainly saw his quality on the ball, and I'm hoping he'll be an asset between now and the end of the season. Some of the quality of passing there as well. But, are you expecting to see a little bit more of these boys in the next couple of games or so, Jord? How did you think they got on?
Yeah, I think they'll play by default anyway from now until the end of the season, because the Rob signings, right? So I think he'll want to play them in any sort of situation he can. But first of all, on Adam Armstrong, thought he was okay. Anytime I've watched Adam Armstrong for other clubs, I think he's pretty ineffective out on the wing, really. I think he does his best work in and around the 18-yard box. And again, I think because he wanted to sort of accommodate Armstrong and Hwang in the same team, he sort of reverted to that 4-2-3-1, if you want to call it that. And they were both sort of playing slightly out of position. I think there's no reason or excuse now for midweek against Forest that Armstrong will be next to Tolu, and we'll go back to sort of that 5-3-2 formation, although it's a little bit fluid within that, and we'll probably see the best of Armstrong in that sort of scenario. When it comes to Angel Gomez, I think again it's someone like that I haven't really watched loads of, because he's obviously been out in Marseille, and was he at Lille before that as well. And the only time I've seen him recently was when Lee Carsey called him up for the England squads, and watched him in those sort of games. And again, it's hard to sort of understand how good of a player is when, some of the games he was playing in, and no disrespect that it qualifies against sort of San Marino and Latvia and all these teams have been playing. But I thought he had a lot of quality on the ball then, and you could tell he's very good on the ball. And I thought, on Saturday, he's a very tidy footballer. He looks very good. He looks to try and break the lines and pass forward as much as he possibly can as well. And I think the one thing with Angel Gomez is sort of why you probably haven't seen him in English football, and you probably haven't heard or seen a lot of him, is I think his size is the reason why he's not been playing in England. Yeah. But I thought it looked like I thought it was a good performance, especially in a real struggling side. And I think if we could keep him next season, that's gonna be sort of the what we get measured on. If we can keep him next season, we can get him bought into the project to be able to come into Wolves and maybe stay with us for a season in the Championship, and hopefully get back up at the first time of asking. I think we've got a real good player on our hands there, especially for sort of the money that's being touted as well. So yeah, look, I think as debuts go, it was a good individual performance. I mean, he wouldn't like to be on the back of a 3-1 hiding like we were, but I think he come off late on in the game. It looked like cramp more so than anything else. So I'm hoping it was cramp, and he can come in on and start again against Forest for us.
Yeah, let's hope so. I think I hope he stays next year, especially if his performances are at a similar level or better between now and the end of the season, But you saw at the every time we conceded as well, obviously heads go down, and he was sort of trying to G up the players. I saw him applauding a few times. I'm like, come on, lads, let's go again. But some would argue maybe it's a shot window for him between now and the end of the season. Firstly, is it an opportunity, a very outside chance of him possibly getting into that World Cup squad? But secondly, obviously, not really be given a chance in the Premier League before. Is this an opportunity between now and the end of the season for him to show what he's capable of? And then maybe for Wolves, if they were to activate the clause, make a quick profit on him as well. We'll wait and see, but I'm hoping he does stick around. I'm hoping that he would have understood the project. He would have understood what the long-term plan was going to be when he signed for the club. So we'll wait and see. And same with Armstrong. Hopefully we see a little bit more from him. Hopefully a little bit more central, like you said, closer to the box and closer to goal. And see if we can get some goals from him between now and the end of the season. But it's Forest up next, Jord. A team in a little bit of a difficult patch themselves at the moment. The gap between them and West Ham has got even smaller. I think it's 3 points now, is it? At the time of recording. So it's very, very close to them, and a lot of pressure on Sean Dyche as well. We know how crazy Marinakis can be. It wouldn't surprise me that if they get a negative result and Wolves get the better of them on Wednesday, he could be in a little bit of trouble. But they're 17th, sat on 26 points, currently 18 points clear of Wolves. But it's not been the best of weekends for them. Obviously, they lost out to Leeds 3-1 on Friday night. And their form has just been a little bit up and down. Jord, what do you think about this one? It feels like it's another one of those games similar to the West Ham game where the pressure is probably way more on Forest than it is us.
Yeah, again, it might be a bit naive to say this, but I actually think it's a game we can go and get something out of the game. I think there's going to be a lot of nerves that we can play on at the City Ground in midweek. Obviously, they're desperate for a win. That West Ham are picking up a bit of form, and Forest are dropping a little bit. I think. Again, I watched the Leeds game and they were well off it. They got beat up, to be honest with you. And I think
I watched it as well.
I think they missed Murillo massively. I think that's a massive loss from at the back. I think this Morato that comes in and plays is one of the worst defenders I've seen in the Premier League. Like anytime I watch him, I just don't get what he's about. So. I think we could have some joy with Tolu against the centre half pairings. I think Nico Williams is still suspended as well. I think he got for a deliberate handball. So I think he's still out as well. So it's a big loss. And ultimately, when it comes to Forest, I think Elliot Anderson's a very, very good player. I think Elliot Anderson makes them tick. I think if you can sort of keep him quiet alongside Morgan Gibbs-White, there's nothing to fear with this team, to be honest with you. And again, I think the game plan should be keep it quiet 15, 20 minutes, get the home fans on the backs of the Forest team, and then play on the nerves, play on that, and then try and nick something. I do genuinely think we can go there and get something. There's no reason why we should be fearful of playing this Forest team as they are at the moment. And like I say, I've said it many times, Marinakis is batshit crazy, and if we do go and beat them in the midweek, which is still a big ask, right? We talk about Wolves winning a football game here. We've only done it once this year in the league. If we beat Forest in midweek, my prediction would be Sean Dyche will get sacked before the weekend.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't surprise me. I don't know if they've got FA Cup action coming up as well.
No, they lost to Wrexham.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So yeah, they then have Fenerbahce in the Europa League, and then they play Liverpool, Brighton, City. So they got a tough couple of fixtures coming up as well. So there will be a bit of pressure on him, I think, going into that game. And West Ham will be hoping. I mean, West Ham have hit a great little run of form as well in the last 5 games in all competitions, 4 wins and 1 defeat. So they got Manchester United this midweek. Obviously, United on a good run as well. So be very interesting to see. In terms of the lineup, Jordan, I mean, we spoke about it in the first sort of 10, 15 minutes there. Do you think we go back to that sort of 3-5-2 and, like we mentioned before, on more than likely Armstrong in there, maybe Rodrigo Gomez back at right wing back, and if Angel Gomez is fit, sit him alongside João Gomez and Mane in the middle?
Yeah, I think that's what will happen. I think it will be that sort of 5-3-2 formation. I still think there's I still think there's going to be a game where Mane gets a rest as well. I think talk about workload and expectation and pressure on such a young man's shoulders, sort of say, that he does need. I think it's naive of us to just keep playing him for 90 minutes every game. I really do. And again, I think he was quiet against Chelsea, no fault of his own, but I wouldn't be shocked to see him maybe get a rest in this game, or even, to be fair, he might even get a rest at Grimsby, because
Grimsby's probably the most likely one, I would say, yeah.
Yeah, especially now like Bellegarde's back fit as well. It'll be interesting to see what we do with that. But, I mean, does Moller Wolf come in for Bueno? I mean, that could happen. I expect Krejci to come back into the starting 11 as well. So, yeah, there'll definitely be some changes from what we saw on the weekend for sure.
Yeah, I'd be very interested to see as well. I think, Krejci will probably come back in. You leave yourself a little bit light in terms of centre-back numbers then, because that's your three current three. Well, I suppose you've got Doc in there as well. But I would say, very simple. I think, you star in goal. Left wing back will be an interesting one. I think Hugo Bueno really struggled. He didn't really have any confidence to take on his man on Saturday, and Neto really got the better of him throughout the majority of that game. Bueno, Krejci, Mosquera. Right wing back will be interesting, but I would probably say it's going to be Rodrigo again. Angel Gomez, João Gomez, Mane, and then obviously your front two, hopefully maybe of Armstrong and Tolu. But wait and see. Forest sat on 26 points. We're on 8 points. Leeds could still, I know there's a massive win. I'd probably underestimate how big of a win that was for Leeds as well, because they're only 3 points above Forest, so they could certainly get dragged into it, but also level on points with Tottenham as well. Leeds are. I know they were doing poorly, but I didn't realise how poorly they would be doing. I sort of froze the league table out of my mind, to be fair, Jord. I don't tend to look at it until I think we've won a few on the bounce, so maybe creeping towards. And then, like we said, Grimsby, which will be a nice change on Sunday, FA Cup action. Of course, there will be some negativity going into it, especially if Wolves end up losing again. Some fans will label this one as a banana skin, but Grimsby Town, Jord, I know you had, I think, got a friend up in the area. I don't know if he's a Grimsby fan, is he? Or
no, he's a Wolves fan. No, he's a Wolves fan. He's it's a bit of a long story, really, but he during COVID, one of his mates who he worked with lived Cleethorpes Way, which is near Grimsby, and they podded up together because he just split up with his ex-missus at the time, and he was living in Nottingham on himself. Got into a pod up there, then he met a girl there and has never come back home, basically. So that's why he's up there. But yeah, no, it's like I say, it is a banana skin. I mean, it's not going to be as embarrassing to lose to Grimsby because, Man United have done that already this season in the Carabao Cup. So if they do go and beat us, it is embarrassing, but at least, it won't eclipse what's happened with Man United earlier on in the season. And ultimately, the FA Cup is all we've got to play for now, until the end of the season. So as Wolves fans, we just want a little bit of a cup run. We want a little bit of hope. And, who's to say, if you go and beat Grimsby and you get lucky with some of the draws, you could end up, getting yourself into a quarter-final pretty quickly, really. And then you just never know. But yeah, ultimately, we should have too much for Grimsby. We should have too much, even in sort of the vein of form we're in. But if we go and lose to Grimsby, I sort of fear for the football club.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is I fear that pressure on Rob Edwards is going to grow even further. And again, I said this probably the last time I was on the podcast. It feels like it's been 3 or 4 weeks. Like, I feel like if we keep losing football games, Rob Edwards can't be our manager going forward into the Championship, because I feel like there's that losing culture mentality. Now, I know obviously you and the Fan Alliance met the club, and I think it was maybe different to that the club have got full faith in him, no matter where we are and how we finish at the end of the season. I would question that you could keep hold of him, or should be keeping him in as manager, if we do continue to lose poorly until the end of the season. I think if we lose against Grimsby, first of all, the pressure is going to be heaped on Rob massively from outside the club. And to add to that as well, there's already murmurings of people wanting the protests to start up again. And again, I'm on the opinion that probably should never have stopped, but that's by the by. I think if we lose to Grimsby, the protests will be tenfold what they were against Man United. I genuinely think the Grimsby game's that big. If we do lose that game, I think the protests and the calls for protests are going to be massive, and I think it will get really toxic at the football club until the end of the season. I think we've got to beat Grimsby no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Grimsby as well. They've doing all right, to be fair. I mean, they're sat mid-table in League Two, but they're 9 games unbeaten in all competitions at the moment. Stretching back to just before the New Year. Beat Shrewsbury 1-0, Fleetwood 1-0. They in their FA Cup they played Weston-super-Mare in the third round. They won 3-2. They then had another run of 3 wins, and the last 2 games have been draws. Recently drawing with Newport. They also play midweek, so hopefully a little bit more minutes in their legs, so they might struggle a little bit to keep up with us on Sunday, perhaps. In terms of lineup for this one, Jord, I mean, you looked at the lineup against Shrewsbury, and that was a pretty strong team, although it had some level of rotation. Obviously, at the time, it was Strand Lars and Arias. Obviously, both of those have left the club now, but I mean, he hasn't got much to rotate with, has he? I mean, you could probably change your goalkeeper. You could maybe bring Chichua and Muller-Wolfer in if they don't start midweek. Other than that, Andre maybe come in. You haven't got a huge level of rotation, really.
We've got to win. So I think even if it's the right thing to do in terms of rotation, I think we're at a point where you just play best 11 in every game and see where it gets you. And again, I sort of echo that for Grimsby. I think we've got to just go and play with our best 11. We're not in a position to be rotating players and giving people minutes for being nice or being kind, especially if a lot of these players aren't going to be here next season anyway. Just do what you got to do, win the tie, get in the hat, move on, play best 11. In my opinion, I wouldn't want to rotate for the sake of rotating. Yeah.
Well, be very interesting. There will be. Hopefully, the pressure is a little bit less if we get a positive result at the weekend. But I can during the week, sorry. But I can imagine if things don't go to plan away at Forest, it could be a lot of pressure going into Sunday's game. Let's jump into the questions anyway for the final part of the show, Jord. Tom Martin, is Armstrong really a good signing? We brought high quality championship players for years under Hayward and Morgan and stayed in that division. Bolly, Neves, Jota were Premier League players in waiting when we signed them. I don't think anybody is saying that Adam, obviously he's going to be part of the squad next season, but he's not necessarily going to be the number 9 Jord for Wolves next year. And I suppose we don't know what the rest of the recruitment's going to be like. Wolves have got to, at the moment, know, it's going to be a massive reset next year. It's going to be a massive challenge to get back into the Premier League. And, we were sort of talking beforehand about, someone else come down with us, whether it's Forest, whether it's West Ham. There's going to be a very good, at least a couple of good teams in the division with us. So Wolves will have to go above and beyond to sign top quality players next year if they want to get out of the Championship. I mean, what's your opinion on that comment in regards to Adam Armstrong?
I think historically he's guaranteed you 20 goals in that league, and I think that's why we've done it. So I think there's an argument to say it's shrewd business. I mean, he went on loan for the back end of last season at West Brom, and I don't think he pulled up any trees, to be honest with you. Like, it's one of those things, it's just a little bit uninspiring. And I think when you've been in the Premier League for, it's our 8th season, right? And then the season before that, we were signing Neves, Jota, Bolly, amongst other players. Signing Adam Armstrong is a little bit unsexy. There's no two ways about it, but is he, he comes with a championship pedigree. Is he good enough to get us out of the league? I would say, yeah. In terms, I think he probably is, yeah. With amongst other quality signings for that level, yeah, I think he'll hold his own and do well. My argument would be, if we then come back at the first time of asking, which is what Fosen are really sort of, are telling us, and what you got told at the meeting with Nathan and the like is Adam Armstrong someone then that you want to build a Premier League charge for the following season, where we're aiming to not only just stay up but get back to sort of the levels we've been at in previous seasons? I'd say no, he's not at that level. So it's a very short short gap signing for me, and it is a little bit uninspiring. But I do think he'll get us goals next season. So I think it's shrewd, is what I would say, but it's not. Yeah, it's not very inspiring.
Yeah, a lot of comments about Rob Edwards. Scott Smith says points-wise, we're further away from safety than when Rob Edwards arrived. It's sort of bound to happen, I suppose, when you're further along in the season. I understand his point, though. For all his lovely connections to the club, when do we start to question whether he's the right man to take us forward? Drew said, are you more upset about Rob Edwards playing a back four, him instructing his defence to foul João Pedro at every opportunity, which is correct as well. Ben, Rob Edwards is a Timu Gary O'Neill. I get the season is gone and time to experiment, but Tolu... I was confused by his question. It's time to experiment, but Tolu in goal because he's big and tall is an experiment and doesn't mean it's a good one. A game Jackson would have suited more because of his pace, and unlikely we will attack much, and he plays Doc. Dapper Derby, how many games has Rob Edwards got left? Poor tactics again. When is he going to rest Mane? Which is similar to what you said. I don't think he can win with the Mane situation, by the way, because if he rested him, there'll be people saying, well, why are you not playing Mane and vice versa? I think Grimsby's probably the game for that. And then Matt Whitton, Jord, have we really seen enough from Rob Edwards to pin all our hopes on him getting us back up next season? So sort of echoing some of the thoughts that you made earlier on, and you have made previously as well.
Yeah, I think it's all fair. I think it's really naive of the football club to say no matter what happens until now to the end of the season, Rob Edwards is the right man for next year. I'm saying this is someone that Rob Edwards wasn't my first choice to be our manager. To be honest, probably wasn't even second or third, but he was the one who put his hand up. Wants to be at the football club when it's burning or effectively burning around itself at the moment. So I'll always give him credit and fair play for all that. Now, it's massive for me from now to the end of the season that he's got results are going to be hard to come by because the quality within the squad isn't there. We don't know. No one can argue that. Like, we are where we are, and we are where we are not because of Rob Edwards, but because of the negligence from above and Vita Pereira and Domenico Tete, the damage they've done in the summer. But I do think there's a way to lose, and I do think there's a way for Rob Edwards to prove he's the right man leading us forward. And I think if you look at I look at the Emirates away and the Emirates performance away at Old Trafford, away at Anfield, the West Ham at home performance. Like, I look at there's been some shoots of optimism within that, and where you're going, right, okay, like I think there's something here, right? But we cannot lose in the manner of we lost. Man United at home. That Chelsea first half was shocking. Bournemouth, I know I wasn't on the podcast to talk about it. We just didn't create a lot, and we lost. I don't think Bournemouth are that much better than us, to be honest with you, on that day. So it's hard. I think there's a way that we lose, and if we play like we have in certain games, he'll keep his job. But if we're playing games like, if we lose embarrassingly like we did at the hands of Man United at home, for me, there's no way he keeps his job. It's just whatever happens till now, until the end of the season, is big for Rob Edwards, but it's also big for us as a football club because I feel like we need some momentum. We need something to grab hold of and grab on and cling on to. But maybe sort of the realist in me just says this is going to get worse. I just think it's going to get worse.
Yeah, it's massive for the football club as well, though, Jord, because they'll look absolutely stupid if this once again fails and they sack him before the end of the season. That's why I think everybody with any common sense knows this club is done and relegated, and I think it would have been a monumental job for him to either have kept us up. Obviously, the aim now is to make sure we don't beat that record and hopefully win a few more games between now and the end of the season. Hopefully go on an FA Cup run. Hopefully that can keep spirits up a little bit and give us something to aim for as well. But I think it is frustrating. I think he did get a little bit of praise in those early performances, and now obviously we've lost a couple of games on the bounce again, and the pressure all of a sudden goes back onto him.
Yeah.
But it was on. I think part of the issue on Saturday was his tactical decision to change things up. He didn't really need to do it. If he wanted to bring his new players in, he could have done it in a different way. So I think that backfired. And I think if you wanted to switch to a back four at home to Chelsea, who had won 3 or 4 Premier League games on the bounce, probably wasn't the team to do it.
Yeah, no, I do think the weekend was on him, and I think a lot of the games and a lot of the performances since he's been in, I wouldn't blame him because the tools he's got aren't good enough. But the weekend was on him. It was on him because he changed the tactics and he got it. Ultimately, he got it wrong, and that's fine. I think the only thing that sort of where you said the club will look stupid, Dave. The only thing that I think the club could use, and they've got an easy out if they do want to change it up, is to say, well, it was Jeff Shea appointment. And Nathan's here now. That's the only out they've got. They have got the out of Nathan going, well, I want to hire someone that I want. But Nathan Shea, who's professed, he's learning football, he's learning all this stuff. It's not like, he's coming in and going, oh, well, I'm a football man and, I'm going to bring Neil Warnock in because I've worked with him a few times before. that isn't there, right? So, but I do think he has got an easy out to say, well, he was a Jeff appointment. I'm my own man. I'm going to go in a different direction with it. But again, like I say, it's still the same people around the scenes, like Matt Jackson.
Do you argue that we need stability though, Jord, as well? Because this is an issue where nothing's ever going to. Maybe we need to see shit football and these type of performances before things get better. Because at the moment, every time we're sacking a manager after 6 to 12 months, we're never ever going to get a level of stability if that keeps happening.
Yeah, 100%. We knew we do need that. We've been crying out for that for years, though, and we have got away with it in a way of. And what I mean by getting away with it is that we've been staying and maintaining our Premier League status by chopping and changing. I don't like changing our manager as much as we do. I feel like we're very close to getting into that sort of Watford model at the minute, where we just keep chopping and changing. No one wants that. There's no stability. There's no stability, and it also gives that sort of. It makes it hard then for fans to fall in love with teams, players, managers, because you just know the affinity's not going to be there. So yeah, we need stability, but you can't have stability for the sake of having stability. Like if it's not working, it's not working. But I don't know. Again, maybe I'm contradicting myself here. Like I would like to see Rob Edwards keep his job and have a go in the Championship with us. Whether he's good enough or not, I don't know. And again, that. I want to be able to come on here and say he's the right man or he isn't the right man, but I just don't think we can judge him with the tools he's got right now. Whoever comes in, whether it's Rob Edwards, whether it's whoever, they need to be backed by Fosen in the summer, and Fosen really, really, really need to put the money where the mouth is. And what they were saying at the Fan Alliance thing about getting at the first time of asking, prove it, do it, and you're probably going to do early, but to get fans on side. Do business before the World Cup. Don't fuck about. Like if there's stuff to be done, do it.
They've got to do that, but you've also got to get fans, Jord, to buy season tickets beforehand. And a lot of fans sometimes want almost a plan in mind or a vision in mind or have some sort of direction which we haven't got yet. So the only way you're going to get fans committed to that is a serious reduction in terms of that as well, which obviously we push for, and hopefully that does come to fruition. I'd assume season ticket prices, meaning they're not going to be imminent, but probably in the next couple of months or when relegation's confirmed.
They'll be announced they need to be announced when relegation's confirmed, because you can't just leave it till the season's ended, because you, like I say, you need to get fans on board.
Fucked up every time. The last 2 or 3 years they've messed timing up on that.
Yeah, they can't
wait until there's no games at Molineux, so they can't get any backlash for it.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, mate. Like, again, I'm not a season ticket holder anymore. Well, technically I am, but I sold it to someone and whatever. By the by, like I saw someone on Twitter put it needs to. I can't remember who it was, but something like it needs to start with a 5 or less than a 5, otherwise I'm not renewing. For me, it should be starting with a 4.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
It should be starting with a 4. And that's across the ground, because there's been a lot, when you talk about value for money the last couple of seasons, fans haven't had that. And there's a lot of loyal season ticket holders who've reluctantly still been renewing. I've got a friend who's in the Billy Wright Upper, and I think it's paying best part of like £900, right? I think it's 950 cent. Like, it's like, come on, like you've got to give these fans a reduction, like, but a proper reduction as well. Nothing token. And if they start doing this benchmarking against the Championship, who do you benchmark against? And if you're saying we're going to benchmark against the teams that we're going to be competing with, and say it is a West Ham have got season tickets best part of 1,500 quid a season.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be, they've got to get that right, because if they feel like they can take the piss with fans, or if they just reduce it down to like 600, let's say, I think they'll be shocked by the amount of fans that'll say.
I have no doubt. We've said, they use, this was again a Jeff Shee term, but they use this term benchmarking and so on. And at the moment, our season tickets are benchmarked against Aston Villa's, who have been pushing the top end of the title for the title race and European football. Next year, you have to look at it and who you're going to benchmark us against. You've got to look locally. Teams at top end of the table, your Blues, your Stoke, they're under £500. They're about 450, one of their most expensive ones, I think.
And not that I want to talk about them, but again, if we benchmark against West Brom, for example, I've got friends who seem to go there. They've notoriously always had cheap season tickets. To be fair to them, they've always done right by the fans with that. Granted, the shite and they might go down this season, but it's that thing of, if I think you've got to benchmark next season against locality rather than who you think might come in the top three.
You don't know who's going to come
in that division. Yeah, anyone can do it.
Yeah. No, that's a thing they've got to get right. Question: Irish Wolf, what's the future? Do you think for Jackson Chichua? Decent option in a 4. But obviously, Doc played against ahead of him on Saturday. He offers little going forward, reluctant to run in behind despite his pace, but he's a solid defender. Pedro Lima, obviously a player that we haven't mentioned much yet. Rodrigo Gomez, now even Doc, have all played ahead of him at right wing back under Rob Edwards. Well, we've seen Jord just this January alone in regards to Wolves trying to get rid of a lot of Vitor Pereira signings. Menetzi's gone, Agbadu's gone, John Arias is gone. Probably, it wouldn't surprise me to Chua. Probably will get minutes, I think, between now and the end of the season, but he's probably one that I don't think will be Wolves will be pushing to stick around next year.
No, I don't think he's like. I don't think he's very good going forward. At all. Like, I mean, I've said before, I actually think he puts a decent cross in, but I don't know how he gets there at times. I don't think he's an awful footballer, though. I generally don't, but I mean, do we want him next season? Does he want to be here? Like, to me, it looks like we're just doing like a real sort of cleanse of anything to do with Vitor Pereira and anyone he signed or touched. So I think he'll be gone. And then, ultimately, again, if you talk about stability, like Rob Edwards owes him nothing. Rob Edwards didn't sign him. Rob Edwards didn't have to pick him if he didn't want to. So I think you'll see probably in the next sort of, I'd say 4 to 6 weeks, if he can't get in the team and Muller Wolf can't get in the team and certain players still keep out on the bench, like you'll soon realise who's going to be sticking around next season and who's not. And I think Chichua will be sold in the summer or loaned out. Same with Muller Wolf. I think we'll do like a massive sort of Vitor cleanse and that'll be it.
Yeah, you saw there was interest in Muller Wolf as well. I think there were Forest had made offers, Roma had obviously made offers throughout January as well. So that'll be interesting. And Wolves were looking for a right back towards the end of the window as well, which does make you think. Has been some interest in Pedro Lima, but he came on back into this game on Saturday. He might be one that plays against Grimsby as well. We'll wait and see. Patient Pigeon. We'll finish off with this one. What's next to Enzo Gonzalez? Granted, he had a pretty rough injury, but we spent $5 million on the lad. He doesn't seem to be anywhere near the first team. Surely he should have been loaned out. He needs more than under 21s unless they're planning to give him minutes. So yeah, he scored for the 21s. He played on Saturday. Scored. Dexter Lembakisa played in that game. Leon Chiwomi as well. If you remember, he had a few chances in the first team under Gary O'Neill. There were rumours about him going out on loan, but that never came to fruition, which is a bit of a surprise. But I think if he sticks around for another month or two, he'll then get homegrown status, which obviously long term could be big. And also, if whether or not Wolves want to keep him in terms of valuation long term, they might be able to demand a little bit more money for him. But yeah, Jord, I mean, those injuries are massively held him back. But I would have assumed a loan move, if it's not just about the homegrown thing, but I would have assumed a loan move was going to be right for him because he wants to push to get in that World Cup squad.
Yeah, well, he needs to play, and he's someone who just hasn't played for us, right? And again, I think he's had some bad injuries, like you said. I think even, was it the Under-20 World Cup I think he went to during our season as well? And I think he's done Olympic qualifiers as well in season. So we've never seen him play. I don't think, has he played for the first team? I don't think he has.
He had like 2 or 3 minutes, I think, under Gary O'Neill.
Right, well, I couldn't even remember that.
Season.
Yeah, so I mean, we signed him with a lot of promise. I think when we were looking to sign him, we were also, at the time, we were sort of linked with Dario Osorio as well, right? And I think he went to, I'm sure he's in Midtjylland at the minute. He seems to be doing quite well over there. So we might have signed the wrong one. But no, like, again, hopefully, if he's got anything about him, the one thing I will say, if he's got anything about him, he would be in this squad now.
Yeah.
Matthijs Marn is in the squad and playing. Rob Edwards would chuck people in that are good enough to play, who thinks he can play and be here long term. The fact that he's not even with the squad and he's playing 23s on a match day says a lot for me.
You might see him Sunday, but again, we didn't see him against Shrewsbury in that squad, so wouldn't hold your breath. But again, I think not too sure on the signing in general. To be fair, obviously been here nearly 3 years now, I think, which is crazy, really, and barely had a sniff. So I think, yeah, he just needs to be playing somewhere. But no, I think the issue is recruitment-wise, nobody knows what level he's at. He's not played first-team football. He's playing, and he's not exactly been a regular in the 21s either. So he played during the weekend and scored. I think Danny Angel, or Angel, however you pronounce it, scored twice as well. I don't know I think it may have finished 3-2. But we'll wait and see. I think with injuries, Hwang injured now, may reintroduce another player. We saw Tom Edozie on the bench on Saturday. Luke Rawlins on the bench. So it's we'll wait and see. It'll be interesting anyway, Jord. Next week we'll be back discussing hopefully a more positive week for Wolves, Nottingham Forest and Grimsby coming up. Jord, where can people find you if they wish?
At JordRuss7 on Twitter and Instagram.
Brilliant. I'm at Dave as a party everywhere, and we're at Talking Wolves everywhere as well. If you want to keep up to date with the latest Wolves news, if you're listening or watching the podcast on YouTube, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And if you're on Apple or Spotify, please feel free to leave us a 5-star review. But until next time, guys, enjoy your week, and fingers crossed, like I said, it's a more positive one next week.